February 10th, 2006. Santhamma was returning home from the Panchayat Office after collecting documents for her newborn twin granddaughters. However, when she arrived home, what she saw would change her life forever. Inside her own house, she found her daughter, Ranjani, and her twin granddaughters brutally murdered. But why? What kind of enmity could someone have had with innocent children and Ranjani that led to such a horrific act? So let's dive deeper into today's case, which revolves around the Kerala triple murder, the first case in India that was solved using AI. Ranjani was a 21-year-old girl from Anchal town in Kerala's Kollam district. She had spent her entire childhood there, living a simple and happy life. In the same town, her neighbor was a young man named Deval Kumar, an army officer. Over time, their acquaintance turned into friendship, and their bond grew even stronger. Eventually, they entered into a relationship. Ranjani was just 20 years old when she fell in love with Deval. And as we all know, the excitement of first love is unmatched. It feels thrilling, exhilarating. The same thing was happening to Ranjani. She was deeply in love with Deval, so much so that one could say she was completely consumed by it. Their bond had grown so deep that they became extremely close and even crossed their physical boundaries. But one thing to remember is that Ranjani and Deval were never married, yet their relationship felt complete in every way. Ranjani always believed that nothing could ever separate them. Up until this point, everything in her life and their relationship seemed perfect, but things were about to take a drastic turn. When Ranjani found out she was pregnant, the moment she learned she was going to have a baby, she was overjoyed. She thought this would bring her and Deval even closer, strengthening their bond. However, when she shared the news with Deval, all her dreams shattered in an instant. His reaction was the complete opposite of what she had expected. Deval immediately told her, "This baby cannot happen. You need to get an abortion." But Ranjani refused. She stood her ground and insisted, "I will not abort this child. You have to accept this responsibility because this is your baby too." As I mentioned earlier, Ranjani was firm in her decision to keep the baby, but Deval couldn't handle the pressure. Unable to face this responsibility, he left her alone in this situation and returned to his army camp in Pathankot, Punjab. Despite being abandoned, Ranjani did not change her decision. She remained determined. She would not give up her child, no matter what. And that in itself was a courageous choice. She was young. She had been left behind by the man she loved, and yet she once believed he loved her the most. Yet he abandoned her in this situation. Standing firm on her decision was an incredibly brave move, in my opinion. Because as you all know, in Indian society, life becomes extremely difficult for an unmarried pregnant woman. Every day is a battle. Every day is a struggle for survival. Society labels them as characterless. People gossip, and their upbringing and values are questioned. At some point, you might have seen similar situations in movies or heard about them in the news. How brutal society can be towards an unmarried pregnant woman, especially when her partner refuses to stand by her. But in Ranjani's case, she was determined to fight for her child's rights. That's why she sought help from the Kerala State Women's Commission and sent a legal notice to Deval, demanding a DNA test upon his return from the Pathankot army camp. This DNA test notice that Ranjani sent to Deval would play a crucial role in this case. As the days passed, Ranjani's delivery date approached, so she decided to go to a hospital in Thiruvananthapuram with her mother. It was at this hospital that she met a man named Anil. He told them that he was also from Kollam and lived in the same area as Ranjani. Hearing this, they became more comfortable talking to him. Anil's nature seemed extremely helpful to both Ranjani and her mother. He often assisted them with small tasks, always ready to lend a helping hand whenever needed. Anil seemed like a really nice guy, and because of his kind nature, Ranjani and her mother started trusting him more. On top of that, since he was from the same hometown as them, they felt even more comfortable around him. During this time, the doctors discussed that Ranjani would need a C-section delivery, which required a significant amount of blood. That's when Anil stepped forward and said, "If Ranjani needs blood, I can donate it, since we have the same blood group." Hearing this, Ranjani and her mother were relieved and grateful. In such a difficult situation, a stranger was offering them immense help. It felt like a blessing in disguise. I'm sure you all have experienced this at some point in life, when you're going through a tough phase, and suddenly, someone steps in, offering support. It's natural to feel a sense of trust towards them, to open up and share your worries. The same thing happened to Ranjani. She confided in Anil, telling him everything about Deval, how she loved him, how he abandoned her, and how she was left to face this situation alone. After listening to her story, Anil assured her, "Once you deliver your babies, I will help you get justice and make Deval pay for what he did." But Ranjani had no idea that Anil wasn't who he claimed to be. He was, in fact, Deval's friend, sent by Deval himself. The entire time, Anil had been lying. He was in Trivandrum's hospital under Deval's instructions, gaining Ranjani's trust while secretly keeping an eye on her and her mother. Soon, Ranjani gave birth to twin daughters in the hospital. Anil, who was actually Rajesh, even helped them find a new rental house, claiming that it would keep Ranjani away from nosy neighbors and relatives who would constantly question her about the babies. Ranjani and her mother agreed, thinking it was a practical choice. After all, they knew how difficult it was for an unmarried mother to survive in society. And as you all know, Ranjani had become a mother before marriage, so moving to a new place felt like the right decision for her as well, since they didn't want any old neighbors or relatives questioning them about the babies. Ranjani and her mother agreed to Rajesh, also known as Anil's, suggestion. Without suspecting anything, they moved directly from the hospital to the apartment he had arranged for them. February 10th, 2006. By this time, Rajesh had completely gained Ranjani and her mother's trust. That's when he decided it was time to execute his plan, along with his friend, Deval. Deval had also taken leave from his army camp. Just like Rajesh, the first step of their plan was to send Ranjani's mother away. Rajesh somehow convinced her to visit the Panchayat office to get the baby's birth certificates. The moment she left, Rajesh and Deval sneaked into the house. What happened next was pure horror. With absolute brutality, they slit the throats of Ranjani and her twin daughters, killing them on the spot. Once their cruel act was done, they fled the scene in a panic. A little while later, when Santhamma, Ranjani's mother, returned from the Panchayat office, she stepped into the house and froze. For a moment, she couldn't believe her eyes. Everything she had fought for, everything she had endured, was gone. The daughters she had supported despite Deval refusing to accept them, the granddaughters she had been willing to raise alone, now lay lifeless before her. In that instant, all those months of struggle lost their meaning. She was completely shattered. After some time, gathering what little strength she had left, Santhamma rushed to the nearest police station and reported the crime. The police acted immediately, launching an investigation at the crime scene. Not far from the house, they found an abandoned car. When they checked its registration number, they discovered it belonged to Rajesh. Without wasting any time, the police contacted the Pathankot Military Base, but by then, Deval and Rajesh had already disappeared. For a moment, it seemed like an open and shut case. The suspects were identified. The motive was clear. But as the investigation continued, tracking them down became harder. Every time the police closed in, they managed to escape. Despite their relentless efforts, the authorities failed to capture them. Eventually, the case was closed. And just like that, over time, people stopped talking about it. The case faded from public memory. Imagine, a mother lost everything, and in the end, she didn't even get justice. Even the police had to admit defeat, and with that, this case became yet another. This case had become a cold case, forgotten in Kerala for 19 long years. But just when it seemed like the truth would remain buried forever, fate had other plans. You must have heard the saying, justice may be delayed, but never denied. Police stations are filled with cold case files, cases that remain unsolved and are occasionally revisited. Many times, we've seen that no matter how well a truth is hidden, time has a way of bringing it to light. And that's exactly what happened in this case. Kerala's ADGP Manoj Abraham was reviewing old cases when he stumbled upon a photograph from 2006, a crucial piece of evidence. It showed two men, Deval and Rajesh, but 19 years had passed. They wouldn't look the same anymore. So the Kerala police turned to technology. Using AI, they aged the old images, predicting how Deval and Rajesh might look now. Once the digitally aged photos were ready, they ran them through facial recognition software and scanned social media databases. At first, the results were weak. Some matches were only 10% or 20% similar. But then, they found a high match with a Facebook profile named Pathankot Kumar. The resemblance was striking. When the police examined the image closely, they realized this was Rajesh. Without wasting any time, Kerala police alerted the CBI, who immediately contacted the Puducherry police. Acting swiftly, they arrested Pathankot Kumar, aka Rajesh. And once Rajesh was caught, it didn't take long for Deval to be found and arrested, too. Interrogation revealed shocking details. For 19 years, these two men had been living new lives under false identities. Both had changed their names. Rajesh became Pathankot Kumar, and Deval started calling himself Vishnu. They had moved to Puducherry, built new careers as interior designers, and even got married to school teachers, as if their past crimes had never happened. Think about it. They had brutally murdered a young mother and her 17-day-old twin daughters, yet they moved on as if nothing had happened. They built families of their own, had their own children, and lived peaceful lives. But justice caught up with them. Thanks to AI technology and determined police work, this nearly forgotten cold case was finally solved after 19 years. And with that, this case was reopened, and justice was finally delivered. But this case also raises an important question. Is AI truly beneficial for us humans? Most people only heard about this case because AI played a major role in solving it. In fact, this is one of the first times that Indian police have used artificial intelligence to crack a case. But this also sparks a debate. Is AI a tool for justice, or could it become a danger to us in the future? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And for now, that's where we end this case. Before you go, guys, if you love dark documentaries and real-life crime stories, make sure to subscribe.